Good evening and welcome to another Fireside Chat with your hosts Dan Lucen and Joshua Yeager. It's episode 3 and we have a special guest here. Zion is here as well.
Oh, I didn't realize I was right. I forget this is your show. Yes, hello. Thanks.
Yeah,
Thanks
we
for having me.
see. It's almost like this isn't our first time, Zion. This is actually our third time.
Yes, if you missed the first 2 podcasts, you would be the same as approximately 8 billion other humans because we didn't record those. But today we get the joy of actually doing this on a recording late at night.
Yes, it is 10:42 p.m. here on a Saturday night. Or, Jesus, it's a Friday night.
It's a Friday night. It's not yet Saturday night.
It's going to be Saturday soon, though. We're here at EVERCON 2025. We're here joined with, of course, Dan Lucen. Zion's here. We have a room full of gamers that are walking around playing different games right now. They're doing the EVERCON Open. They're doing all kinds of stuff. But hey, we're here to talk about video games. And I think what we should maybe even start off, because I listened to a lot of chatter before we hit record here tonight.
Yeah,
about
that happens.
video games and music.
Okay.
What do you think are some like songs, pop culture references, even video game musics? But what about like a pop culture song that reminds you of a specific time when you were playing a video game?
Okay, now that's interesting because I only think of the video game soundtracks.
Sure.
But I can name other games that I think of with that. On the way up here, actually, I started playing, I forget what song it was that I looked up first, but Ben and I were talking about when I got into Magic the Gathering.
Oh,
that was
boy.
1993.
Oh, sure.
And so, like, I put on, I know what it was Sponge with the song Cloud, and I put that on.
Dude,
and
are we like the same person?
Probably.
Yeah,
And then the car
okay.
was like, oh, now it's time for Stone Temple Pilots. Now it's, and like
Oh,
some of those I
yes.
loved and some of those I didn't, but I was just like, oh yeah, this is a song. Oh yeah, there's this, I forget what it was. It was like, shoot, I don't remember what it was, but there was one song that I haven't heard probably since the 90s that I was like, oh yeah, that was a Magic song. And those were all Magic songs.
That was a Magic song.
Those were Magic songs in my head.
Yes, that's so
yeah,
cool.
yeah, the video games I tended to not do that with. Are there songs that you are like, oh yeah, that's this?
So weirdly, whenever I play Double Dragon 1 on the NES, I almost don't hear the NES soundtrack anymore. I just hear Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction.
Okay.
Because I used to get babysat a lot by my older sister, who at the time loved Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction, and she would blast it on the stereo constantly. I would run to the video store on Friday nights, use my allowance to rent an NES and Double Dragon, come home, and not
Always
hear...
Double Dragon?
Honestly, for months, because I loved Double Dragon 1. And I never really heard the soundtrack until one day. I don't know if it was early in the morning or whatever, but I got up before everybody else was up, and I could hear the music in Double Dragon. I'm like, this is so weird. I'm like, I need Welcome to the Jungle. Like,
It's like not the same game.
It's not. It's so strange. But like, I still do. I still like when I like do, and I'm like, welcome to the jungle. We got fun and games.
And then you're ready to go through the jungle scene and hit the
Yes.
abobos and
get the
knock them
abobos,
out.
knock
and
them
so-
off
yeah.
into the water, and
Yeah.
the whole thing. It's just so bizarre. What about you, Zion? Any kind of games that like remind you of pop culture music or anything?
Well, I think I'm kind of like you, Dan, where like I hear a lot of like video game music, and I'm reminded of like a moment in time, more or less.
Sure.
I think. But there is this like I don't know if either of you played Prince of Persia: Warrior Within, which is the second
Yes, yep.
second 3D
Yep.
one, and they've got Godsmack in there. And the
What?
song's like stand alone. Like
What?
whenever I hear that song, or whenever I see like 3D Prince of Persia, I can't like not think of how awesome I thought that was back in the day.
Yeah.
And now I just like I laugh at it because
I can't believe that.
Yeah, it was like every time like the main boss came on screen, like the Dahaka, I think was his name.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
yeah.
That song, just like you'd hear the.
Yeah. Godsmack was
crazy.
quite the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So I interviewed the cinematic director of Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown for Nintendo Life like
Oh my
2
God.
years ago.
Yeah.
And of course he wouldn't have been a part of this decision-making process, but I asked him anyways, like, hey, are you guys gonna put Godsmack in the new game? And he laughed and was like, there is no Godsmack.
But it's funny too because one of the things, we don't have our disc games with us today because other than Midwest Gaming Classic, I also do JJ Games.
Yep.
And I have like my go-tos for certain consoles when people are like, ooh, what's a good game for this that I might not play? And Prince of Persia, Sands of Time
Yes,
is mine for that
yes.
era. It's so good. And I don't understand how so many people missed it.
Yeah,
and then
I know.
I've had people that have come back and they've been like, what about the other ones? Are they the same? And I'm like, no, they're so much
You're
different.
right.
And that is the perfect explanation. The first one is all like, we're going to have the real like Egyptian theme and everything's going to be like about the story, and then the second one is Godsmack. And
You're
yeah,
totally
Yes.
right.
Yeah.
And that like almost encapsulates like a few years in gaming
Oh,
where
yeah.
like
Oh, yeah.
it was everything like
Everything
just
had to be
so
edgy and
gritty.
emo.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yep, absolutely. They gave Sonic the Hedgehog's counterpart Shadow. They gave him
Yep.
guns.
Yep.
Yes.
And everything
Jesus.
was just really weird for a few years.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Do you ever make up lyrics to games?
Oh.
Or have a song in your head in a game, or you just nod it so much that you've gotten like lyrics in your head to it?
So, I'm not sure because there was there's the Super Mario Super Show back in the
Oh,
day,
yeah.
and there was the lyrics that went with that.
Super Mario
Yep.
Super Show.
Except that you know it.
And
Yeah.
then again.
See,
Is that-
here's the
that-
thing.
is that
So
that
yes,
one?
except that I don't know the actual lyrics from it, and so I kind of made up my own, and they're like, I don't know, 75% the same, but 25% different. And whenever I hear that song, I sing the version of my version in my head, and every so often I hear them, and I'm just like, no, that's wrong.
That's wrong.
And it's clearly not. That's where I came up with it from. So that one, and other than that, I heard someone doing it with an Earthbound song.
Oh.
And then after that, yeah, one of the songs, and I'm not sure if it's supposed to have lyrics or not. And then afterwards, now I think of the lyrics with it more. It's 8 melodies, and there's a there's a lyrical version of it that's
Yeah.
obviously not in the games. And so I think of that one, but that's not my own lyrics.
Is
So
that like there's
That's
like
awesome.
a song from Earthbound or Earthbound Beginnings or something? It's like Pollyanna, and that one has lyrics too. It's not the same one as the 8 melodies track. is
yeah,
it?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think
I'll
so.
have to look it up though.
So, yeah.
I love Earthbound.
Yeah,
but-
Yeah.
we could turn this into an Earthbound show for the rest of the time.
Earthbound, Chrono Trigger.
Earthbound for me
yeah.
was the start and the end. I was sick. My dad decided that he was going to be nice. He rented a game. He brought home Earthbound. I would have never rented it otherwise.
Wait, did you have to get the copy from Family Video? That was in the glass
yeah,
case.
yeah, that's
we
mine.
did talk about.
Yeah,
we
yeah.
talked like one of the years that it was in the. I have pictures of that on my phone.
Okay, yeah.
And I show it-
Yes,
I'm
yes.
that guy.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, that rings a
I'm
bell.
that guy.
Yes, he's that guy. So for everybody else that's listening or tuning in for this, if you are one of the 4, or 4 million that will maybe 8 billion that will listen to this one afterwards.
Yeah.
I got Earthbound. My dad rented a copy. He brought it home, and I was sick. And it would not have been a game that I would have ever even thought to rent, because I wasn't really into RPGs. It was real cutesy looking, and I was like, whatever, I'm sick, I'm gonna play it. And so I started playing it, and I was like, I love this. And so I stayed up that night when I was sick as a dog, and I basically stayed up until like 3 when my dad walked in and was
Did you
like,
really?
what are you doing? You need to go to bed. And I was
Yeah.
like,
You're
I need
sick.
to beat the game. And so the next day the game disappeared and went back to pick and save.
No way.
And
Oh, no.
yeah, and I was told you have to rest or you're not going to be able to stay home.
save
and
file.
so yeah, and I was like,
Oh,
no.
no.
And so I went back, and every time that we went to that pick and save, I looked for the game, and I finally rented again, and the save file was gone. And I though finally found it at Family Video for $5.95 in the big box, and I have adored that game ever since. And yeah, the music in it and the lyrics, and I mean not the lyrics until I heard them, but so much
Sure.
of that game affects me. And like it's fascinating because the more that you play it, as you age, it changes. Like the discussion about names, my son he was sitting over there.
Here it is, by the way, just
and-
in case you wanted to see it.
That was
That's
quick.
amazing.
That was quick. Yeah, my
I even love this little. Like I took a second
Yeah,
picture.
yeah.
Like
That's amazing.
that's my copy.
Nobody can see this, but
That's okay. You can see it if you come to Midwest Gaming Classic, and if I decide to bring it again. I don't know that I
point.
will. That year was unique because we got these 2 display cases, and they were for a certain person. And then, like, Thursday, I believe it was, they were like, oh, sorry, I'm not going to be able to bring anything. And I was like, I rented 2 display cases for you for a whole bunch of money. What am I going to put in them? So I was just like, I'm just going to walk to my basement and, like, randomly grab crap off the shelves. And so, like, if you took pictures of everything that was in them that year, it ranged from, like, Earthbound, really rare Magic cards, to, like, stupid crap that was, like, I think that I had, like, a copy of, like, To the Earth for the NES in there that was, like, a
yeah.
$5 game or whatever. Why not? And,
oh, there's got to be something like crazy about that game.
yeah, and there wasn't. And so, like, it was just literally me going through the basement and being so tired and just being like, that can go in the back, that can. And, like, after I got to a certain point, it was like, all right, we'll fill it out with whatever is left here and put those in. And it's funny because I've had, like, now, like, 30 or 40 people come up to me and be like, oh, my God, there was someone that had this there. Do you have any idea? And you were one of them. And I was just like, that's mine. And what? Really? And so, yeah. So this is
That's
I went
awesome.
way the hell
No,
off
this is
topic.
great. This is
So
great.
okay, well,
That's what
I
we
love
do.
that.
It's gaming off
I mean,
topic.
that is this is what our fireside chats were
It's
like
exactly
in the
what
past.
they
I mean, who knows what we talked about
Yeah.
in those other ones?
I honestly can't. Well,
6
no,
people.
Yeah,
I guess 8 because of us.
I remember. Yeah.
So-
If you include, we were listening to each other.
Yeah.
But I can only imagine with that display case, you'd have people coming in or like collectors coming in. They'd be like checking their price charting, like to the
Yeah,
earth.
to the-
Yeah.
To the earth must be skyrocketing. Oh, 99 cents.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You know, that's a nice boxed copy of it, I
Yeah, I
guess,
mean,
but I don't know
sure.
why that's here.
It's
so.
crazy how much of an impact like those kind of little moments have on people, though. 'Cause,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Like even I don't know if either of you have a moment like this necessarily, like the to the earth thing. But when I was a kid, I remember there was some kid that was like telling me that the Pokemon card The Boss's Way was like banned in a country or was super
Oh,
expensive.
sure.
It never was. Just spoiler
Yeah.
alert, it
Yeah,
never
spoiler
was
alert.
expensive. But every time I see it, I like am reminded of that
Oh,
moment
yeah.
in life where that kid told me it was a rare card.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and I sometimes look it up just for fun, and it's like that guy like cursed me. I'm like forever. Every time I see The Boss's Way, I'm reminded
Yeah.
of that stupid moment. But yeah, do you have
Well-
a moment of like someone tricking you or like a friend like
Oh my gosh,
accidentally?
yeah.
Before I go to the trick, I just want to retouch on one thing that I half said, and I realize that if anybody listens to this, this is a big dangling thread. I said in Earthbound,
Oh.
I said, the more that you play it, the more that it reflects in
God,
different
yes,
ways.
yes.
And then I said, my kid is over there, and then we talked about God knows what. And
I don't
we
even
never
remember.
followed up. Yeah, we never followed up. It became like, oh yeah, that was at the show, and then we stopped doing
There's
that.
something about pick
so,
and save.
So
That's what I
here's,
remember.
yeah, exactly, we went there. So here's the point that I was going to say is that the last time that I played it, I hadn't realized, or I hadn't remembered, even though I play it like every 2 or 3 years, I hadn't remembered how much of that game was like talking about the importance of names. And like when we
Oh,
were
really?
having our kids, we were really having like my wife and I had these long conversations
Oh,
about
yeah.
like what is this the right name? But if you name the kid this is what they kind of become. And like
Mm-hmm.
Earthbound, if you play it again, goes through that. And I remember I was actually playing it on a stream, and I was just sitting there like, oh man, like this is hitting so much differently than it ever
Yeah.
has before. And that game hit me every single time that I've played with it in different ways. And yeah. So on to tricks.
Tricks?
Yeah, because he had said the trick thing.
Yes,
I just realized that I had totally
Oh,
left that
oh,
as a
sure.
dangling
or maybe
thread.
in a moment where like it doesn't have to be tricked, but
So one thing about the 80s, and this is like the gaming crash and everything of the 80s, I remember there were a ton of consoles that at the time that were dying. ColecoVision, Television, TI 9948, Atari 2600, Tandy color computer. They all had different style of cartridges, but a lot of them were the same. And I remember I was at someone's house and they had a Commodore 64, and I was so excited. And I was like playing all these games. I'm like, these are amazing. These games, this music is really good and stuff. And they're like, yeah, it'll work on any computer. And so I was like, okay. And I begged my mom, can we get a Commodore 64 or games or something for the Commodore 64? And one of the guys the kids that were there said, look, you can buy mine. It'll work on yours. And I had a Tandy at home. I thought for sure I was buying a slew of games for like $5-10 or whatever, and I was going to go home and play them on my Tandy. Cartridges didn't fit, nothing worked.
Oh my
Obviously,
God.
then I had a stack of I think they were VIC 20 it was Commodore 64 games that just didn't work in my Tandy, and so I was so mad. And I remember sitting there, and my mom and dad were just like, "No, you're not going to buy any more games. That thing doesn't play anything," or whatever it was. But I remember being so upset that I found out the hard way that all these different consoles and all these different companies had different types of cartridges.
Oh my gosh, uh-huh.
Like that was a weird lesson.
I have
So
a weird lesson.
That blew my mind.
I have a weird lesson, but it's a different thing. It wasn't something that I was tricked from a kid. It was something that the game tricked me on, and it took me years to find out.
okay.
Oh no. Oh no.
Do you know the NES game Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the first one?
The first one, yeah. The
Okay,
best
right?
one. Yeah.
I mean, you could argue that. I don't know that I would, but you could.
If you're good, I heard it's not too bad.
So I was pretty good at it, except that I didn't have it on the NES. I had it on the IBM PC.
Oh
Do you
my
know
God.
anything about the copy on the IBM PC?
No.
Okay,
Does
so I
it
got
have like no music?
no. It's got music. It looks very similar. I would play it, and I would get to this one part, and like I got really good. Like the whole like everybody that's like, oh, defusing the bombs is impossible. I could get through that without losing a turtle. That was no big deal. I got to the next part, and I got to this one jump, and every damn time
Oh yeah.
I
Oh,
died,
no.
and I was like, what am I doing wrong? And I played this game for hours, and I would get to the same jump, and I would die.
Are you talking about this?
Yeah, the one that you might be thinking of that from the NES copy.
Oh.
It turns out the PC copy has a bug in it that you cannot make that jump. And so I played this game, I swear to God, for probably 200 hours, getting to that jump, doing the jump, and then being like, what is wrong with me?
Oh,
And
no.
seriously, like, I don't know, 7-8 years ago, I'm listening to Retronauts, and they're like, yeah, it's not like Turtles for the PC that was impossible to beat. And I was just like, what? What? It wasn't me? It wasn't me. I wasn't a failure.
The game was just bad,
yeah,
right?
the game is just completely broken. And they took out like one brick or something and made it so that
No
it was
way.
wrong and it was impossible to beat. And so
Oh
that was
my
the one that I
God.
was certain that I was just not doing it right. And no, I beat the game a million times as far as I'm concerned because
Yeah,
as
absolutely.
far as you
Yeah,
can get.
no, absolutely. I mean, if
As
you got
much
to
as
that
like
point.
game updates are abysmal now, like like even trying to play
Yes.
Smash yesterday and like
Yeah, you got to do updates every time
Yeah,
you turn
like-
the game system on. Yeah.
it's so gosh, I
It
bet
is
you would have taken
convenient.
that update.
Oh,
back
in
in
that
the day.
case, yeah.
Yes, true.
It's funny because I dug through it. I had a bunch of weird PC games back in the day. I had Mega Man for the PC, which is
Oh,
totally
sure.
different
Yeah,
than
it's
other
very
ones.
strange.
Yeah.
Isn't
And
it
it's-
US Gold? I think made that or
yeah,
something like that.
I think
yeah,
so.
very
I had the
strange.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I did not even realize this. I had an elf, like alien life form elf game for the computer. That is not the alien life form game that's on the Sega Master System, and it's just weird. It's like kind of like an edutainment game with
Sure.
like other elements. I have no memory of playing it. I watched videos of it. I'm not even positive that was the game that I played. Yeah, we got shareware games and stuff like that. There was so many just kind of fun stuff like that I used to have for that system. And that was my parents. Here's a random fact and probably why I got into all this stuff. My parents were like, oh, hey, I would come home and be like, oh, hey, Dad, I really want to get an NES. Like, all the other kids have them. They're great. And he was like, you have a 2600. They're the exact same thing.
Oh man.
And I was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
and I was like, no, they're not.
Yep.
And he was like, no, they're the exact same thing. Now, my dad is a collector. My dad,
Oh, really?
in the early 80s, was collecting Star Wars figures. And
Okay.
so
That's smart.
he literally
Yeah.
built on a room to our house that is filled with Star Wars characters.
Yeah.
And so he was like, come to rummage sales with me and find games at rummage sales. And so I would go, and I was essentially always a generation behind, and I would buy like 25-cent carts, and then I loved that. But so like when everybody else had the NES, I had a computer, and the reason that I had a computer was, in the strangest thing ever, my grandfather was like always on the cutting edge of technology, and so we would get hand-me-down computers from him, and they were like the most powerful in town still because he would replace it every single year with a new one.
Yeah.
Ghostbusters is also great.
Yeah.
It's playing Ghostbusters in here, and we're getting
That's
to
amazing.
dance.
We got to dance.
And I like it, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know when
Ooh.
either of you's like first game? Let me rephrase that. When was the first time you think you remember playing a game and realizing the game was bad and it wasn't you?
Oh.
Like an example, I think for me it was probably Superman 64, like trying to fly through the hoops, and I just thought I thought I was just bad at the game.
Yeah.
But it turns out the game was just broken.
Yeah.
And impossible. And
I
that
got
explains
a
why
weird
I bought it
one.
from Goodwill.
I got a weird one because in a lot of like European forums that I'm a part of, they say it's a good game, and I still think it's a shitty game. It's Cybernoid on the NES.
Okay.
Ever even played around with it? It's like
I
a.
don't think so.
It's sort of a shoot 'em up, but you have to control your like gravity. Like you move up and down, not by moving up and down. You have to.
Is it
push a
Low
button.
G-Man in the U.S. by chance?
No,
Oh,
it's
okay.
Cybernoid. Low
Okay.
G-Man's alright. I like that one. Low
Yeah, I've
G-Man
heard
and,
people that have liked that one.
And it's not like Metal
I don't know
Storm
that I
where
know
you're,
It was
like,
Cybernoid.
Victo guy.
jumping
Yeah,
on the
Cybernoid.
ceiling
It
or
was like
something,
a.
right? Or it's not the same game. Is it that you're just flying straight up the whole time, or is it a
You
side
move
scroller,
around.
or-
So you move left and right with the D-pad, but you have to push a button to go like that. And then the other button is shooting. So it's like a shoot 'em up / gravitational
Slash
game.
Flappy Birds
Weird
kind
thing.
of?
Yeah, and it's single screen.
Ah.
So you go through a tube and then you come up another screen, and stuff like that. It's
Oh,
really
okay.
weird. And I think it's broken to hell. And I'm the guy who enjoys Hide-A-Light on the NES. Like, I
Yeah.
think that's a fun little game. It's like a 15-minute RPG. What's
See,
wrong with it?
yeah,
Nothing. It's
it's-
hilarious. It's
I
fun.
was,
Bump and run physics. It's great.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what I was, but I was not well off enough to buy many games. And so when I would get a game, I would play the hell out of it and just kind of accept it. And so a lot of the games that people are like, oh yeah, that game wasn't good, like Fester's Quest, I'm like, that game was great. It was all I had for a year.
Yeah.
So like,
okay.
you know,
Yes,
like
as long as you didn't get any
yeah.
power-ups, that game's great.
Yeah, yeah. And like it's like there's a lot of stuff like that. I don't feel like I started feeling like there was bad games until much further down the line. I feel like the Jaguar, oddly, was the first system that I
Yeah.
was really like, oh yeah, that is a bad game. And
Yeah.
the games that I actually think are the worst, the game that sticks out to me and the game that I would tell people is the worst game ever is White Men Can't Jump for the Jaguar.
That's pretty rough.
Okay, so the
Yeah.
reason why, have you played it?
Isn't it? It's an NBA Jam clone, kind of like
Sort
a
of,
knockoff.
except it's like a 3D court vision, and the gameplay itself is okay. But
Really?
here's the issue. You start playing the game, right? It's a 2-on-2 game, and you are trying to raise... you start playing the game, that's the issue. You start trying to raise money, and so you're betting money against other players, and you keep getting a little bit more money and a little bit more money, and your goal is to enter the citywide tournament. It's something like, hey, if you make $500 or whatever, you get to enter the citywide tournament.
Yep.
And so you play like 25 different rounds against different level skills so you can get to your $500. And if you lose money, you go back down. You get to the citywide tournament. And they're like, all right, here's the big tournament. You play one game and the game's over. If you lose, you lose. If you win, you won the tournament. And it's like, what in the world is this? Yeah.
way.
And so like I ground that game because I was like, this is going to be great. Like it's going to be such a challenge at the end. I won the one game and was like, are you kidding me? And that game to me sticks out as being so
The
bad
worst of all time.
because it's not that the gameplay was actually that bad. It's that the way that they put it together
yeah.
was just I was like, this is miserable.
Yeah.
I wasted all my time
Yeah.
to get to something that I thought would be cool, and there was nothing cool
There's
about it.
And are there
Nothing.
no like save point kind of checkpoints?
I don't think
that
so.
You recall
I don't
either?
recall that. No,
God.
It's funny too.
I doubt it.
We probably have more copies of that game in stock because we got a buyout of a place that had like seriously 200 copies of that brand new, and I still think that we have that like 100 of them probably somewhere. And so yeah, I've still got that game haunts me to this day. I guess is what I'm trying to say.
So what would be a low-key terrible game, but you love it?
Well, I said Fester's Quest.
God.
Oh, so yeah, no. Fester's Quest. Here's the thing about Fester's Quest, though: amazing graphics, fantastic soundtrack.
Yeah.
It's a Sunsoft like
Yeah.
gem. It's just it's so weird that the power-ups can like completely ruin your experience with that
Yeah.
game. It's bizarre, but if you get to certain parts of the game, and as long as you're not powering up your weapon, it's actually a pretty enjoyable time.
Yeah.
It's like all the bad parts of Blaster Master
Yeah, all put together,
with a broken game plan,
but with nice music
Yes, nice music.
and good-looking graphics for the
Yeah.
NES.
Yeah. What were your thoughts? A game that is just universally panned, like it's just like
just bad.
rough, and you can tell it's rough. Like there's gameplay elements, but you've played it so many times that it kind of shifts into like instead of just being bugs, it's like it's quirks.
Yeah,
Like come on, this isn't bad.
I'm trying to think if I have another one, but Fester's Quest was the first.
So I think did either of you play the Xbox Burger King Sneak King?
Oh my
game?
god.
Yes.
This is the second time someone's talked about Sneak
Really?
King today.
So I bought that when I was a kid, and I think it was one of the first few Xbox games that I ever played, and I think it was just so cool to be buying a video game from a restaurant, I think, or like a fast food chain.
Those are words.
And I don't know why. It's just so weird. It's creepy seeing him like on the menu. He like hides behind all these bushes, and he like comes out of a trash can, and the whole concept of the game, right, is like just
It's so weird.
sneaking up on people and
Yeah.
giving them sandwiches.
Yep.
And I finally booted it up again, like just a couple, like 2 months ago maybe, with my girlfriend.
Yeah.
And she did not enjoy it the
No.
way that I thought we
Okay.
would together as like
But the
a
thing
collective.
is you were
But
in the day you were getting it as a prize from a Happy Meal.
yeah,
Wasn't
yeah.
it like just fast food?
I think it
item,
was
like
$5
$5
anytime you bought a combo
so
meal.
Yep.
what your expectations were so like this is just going to be silly to like it's actually kind of competent. Like
I
it's a
can
game.
spend 2 hours
Yeah.
with it. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes,
Absolutely.
exactly, and that's fine, and that's what it should be. So earlier today, I was walking through and I saw a couple kids playing Jackbox,
Oh,
and the question was, you're haunted by a ghost. What does it say to you that scares you? And the winning answer was literally, let's play Burger King Sneak King.
Wow.
Really?
And they were like, yes, and they were laughing about it. I'm like, and then you said it, and I'm like, I haven't heard that name of that game in years, and now it's twice in one day. That's hilarious.
That's amazing.
That is amazing.
There's a full documentary about the Burger King games online now, featuring like some of the original
I think I saw that.
developers.
I think I saw that,
Noclip
yeah.
did
That's
that.
amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
it's
so
great.
cool.
Highly recommend.
That's amazing.
So the one other thing that I will say, and I was talking about this just the other day, a game that I have found, but it's actually because there's a competent version of it, and then there are many incompetent versions of it.
Oh.
And that is Zoop.
Oh,
Zoop
yeah.
for
Is that
the
like a Game Boy
Jaguar
game even,
is
too?
awesome.
So I used to get Zoop and Zool confused.
Yeah,
Ah,
and
okay.
Zool,
Because there's Zool 2 on the
Zool I
Jaguar
also
as well.
think is very good.
It's
But
not
Zoop,
bad, yeah.
As a puzzle game,
It's
if
like
you
a-
have and you have to like connect the shapes and the colors, and they go in different directions.
Yep.
So like as you shoot this way, it'll go back this way next, and so you have to go fast because they all kind of converge in on you. The Jaguar version, super competent, super fun.
Yeah,
and so
it's
I've
fine.
told other people like, man, I really like Zoop. And the Jaguar version was my only thing. And then people were like, oh yeah, I played it on the Genesis. It's like the worst game on the Genesis. And it's on the Game Boy. I
Yeah,
walked
it's on
into a
everything.
game store this week because I was dropping off flyers for my show. And I was like, oh my God, you have Zoop boxed for Game Boy. And I was like, nope, I know it's terrible. I can't do that. And so I turned around and I walked out
Way to
safely.
walk away.
I
Yeah, way
marked
to walk
myself
away.
safe from Zoop for the Game Boy.
What willpower?
But like I said, it's one of those games that like no one played it for the Jaguar. If you're going
Right.
to play it, you're going to play it on Game Boy or Game Gear or Mega Drive or Super
Right.
Nintendo or
Yep.
PlayStation or anything else. Even
Yep.
the PlayStation version kind of blows. And
Really?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wait, Zoop is on PlayStation?
Zoop is on
It's
the original
on a ton
PlayStation.
of stuff. I
Th-
think it's
there-
on Saturn,
Yeah, I think so. Their
Genesis.
gimmick was like, we're going to put this on everything.
Game Gear.
And so
Game
yeah, it
Boy.
was
Gun,
definitely on
like
Game
theory?
Boy. Yeah, it was definitely
Oh
on
my
Game Boy
God.
and Game Gear and original Game Boy.
Yep,
So
but not NES. It was
yeah,
not an NES.
not an NES. That was the
Wow.
cutoff
I
point.
mean, they put
Yeah.
it on a Game Boy. Just
I know.
do
Right.
it.
Just
I
do
know.
it. It should have been on NES,
yeah,
honestly.
yeah. And I know I bought it for Game Boy too, and was like, oh god, this is bad. And it was. It's a puzzle game that is impossible in 4 colors.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that's a pretty weird one. You know what's, honest to God, I'm not kidding, my favorite Atari Jaguar game? Flip Out.
I feel like we're about to go into a Jaguar conversation, and I love this.
Flip Out. Have you
Flip Out
ever,
is outstanding.
Have you
I don't
ever
know if
played
I've
it?
ever played
It
a
is the
Jaguar.
strangest game most people have never heard
It's
of or
a
played.
juggling puzzle game,
It is
basically.
freaking great. It's, yeah, so the idea is, and
I-
the audience
what's
is
it
like,
called?
what's
I'm
my-
so excited
homework.
for you to
the
describe
audience
this.
is like, so this is what you see, and for those that are just listening, it's basically like a pad with say 9 squares on it,
9.
and
Usually
there's
9. I think
9
sometimes
squares
12.
on the pad, and what'll happen is you have a guy, or no, you're a cursor. You're
You're a
literally
cursor.
just a cursor.
You're a cursor.
But there are guys who walk onto it and screw it up. They walk on your tiles and they'll mess
Yep.
it up. So your little cursor comes
Well,
around.
it's not that they mess it up. It's that when they walk over, you can't fling those
You
into the air.
can't fling them up, or they'll land on it and then you can't move them at all. And sometimes they're standing there and you can flick it, and then you flick the guy too.
Yep.
Anyway, so you have these 9 tiles on this pad, and then all of a sudden a 7th one comes in, and it's flying.
10th.
Oh, sorry, a
9 plus 1.
10th.
10.
Jeez, yeah, I can't add.
It's all right. It's late.
It's
you were running a show today.
A 10th one flies into the air and it's coming down, and your little cursor's moving around, and you have to kick another one up in the air. So now there's 2 in the air, and then while the other one comes down, it'll go wherever the last one up that you kicked. So you can kick up a bunch if you want to, but they'll only go in that order back down.
And then you have to sort them.
You have to sort them into colors patterns. I don't know if it's an X or if it's in a row like Tetris.
While you're
or-
juggling them?
While you're
Yeah.
juggling them. And if you get them all in the right spot, then boom, you pass the level.
Yep.
You hear a clapping sound.
Yeah. Yay!
Yay.
And the guys, I believe,
And the
even
guys
turn
are,
that are
like,
on the
dancing,
tiles,
they're,
and
like,
they turn and they
clapping
dance. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
And then you go on to the next level. And
Yep.
every world has 10 stages. There's one of the pad thing. There's one of like sprouts, like Old Faithful sprouts that you have
Yep.
to like take the guys and flip them to other ones. And then there's like the weirdest one is I think the map of the United States. We have to do the states or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's a game of juggling tiles and puzzles, and it's awesome. Like 10 out of 10, really, really fun.
Okay. The
It's
other
made by-
Jaguar game. Oh, you go ahead.
It's
Sorry.
made by Guerrilla Software, and it
That's
opens
right,
with a
yep.
silhouette of a gorilla.
That's,
And
not,
he's
that's
Yep.
not the Killzone team, right?
no,
like,
I
they did
can't
one
imagine it
game.
was,
They did
yeah.
one game
Okay.
and never were heard from again. Atari was like, "You should make a Jaguar game," and they're like, "We will."
Yeah.
And it's like it sold 63 copies.
And that was the death of them. So the other game that's great for the Jaguar that's not on anything else is called Attack of the Mutant Penguins. Did you know about this one?
Isn't that is that aftermarket or was that originally?
No, it's an original release.
Oh my
Because
God,
Jaguar
It's
has
an
a ton of
actual
aftermarket
release.
stuff, right?
Yeah, it
Oh,
does.
yes, I
it
have
does.
heard- I have
and
heard
so,
of this one.
like, you're like a walking round ball that has a frying pan, and there are mutant penguins that are doing something, and you have to. I don't remember the exact thing, but there's like guys that march and they have to get to a ship, and you have to like walk around and like like bang on the penguins to like stop them from doing things to stop the other guys. And it's very much a puzzle game of like you have to figure out where to go to hit them with the frying pan, and so much of it is absurd. I haven't really played through the game in a while, so I'm blanking a little bit on how it all works
Yeah.
because it's more complex. But I remember just being like, No one, like even in the Jaguar community, no one talks about that game, and it's phenomenal. Me and my friend Max were both like, "That's one of the best
Attack of the
Jaguar
Killer
games."
Penguins.
Attack of the Killer Penguins.
Is it like a strategy game, like an?
No, it's not
war?
RTS. It's more like a. It's hard to explain. It's kind of like a cross between Lemmings, but if you were trying to make it so that the Lemmings all like got stopped first. It's like reverse Lemmings, kind of.
Reverse
Yeah,
Lemmings.
yeah.
You're trying to stop them.
Yeah, because you're
Okay.
trying to stop the mutant penguins from taking over stuff.
Oh, very
because if
cool.
too many of them get into this like machine, the machine gets really mad and like destroys the world or something. And like, why are they mutant penguins? Because Atari.
Is it
So-
anything like Choo Choo Rocket?
No.
But you're trying to prevent
Choo
them
Choo
from.
Rocket.
No, Choo Choo Rocket is
That's
great.
a great game.
Uh-huh,
I like
it's
that
great.
one.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes, Choo Choo Rocket's fantastic. You know, speaking of it's Killer Penguins and Choo Choo Rocket, what's the first video game that scared you?
Okay, we're still in Atari Jaguar for me.
Oh,
This one is
really?
easy. Yeah, this one is easy. Atari Jaguar Alien vs Predator.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Because the first time, so this is an important background. So I got my first Jaguar because I had heard that it was going to be so good that you couldn't tell the difference between movies and
Yes,
playing
of
it.
course,
Which
yeah.
is
No way, is that what
not
they
even,
said back
yes, which
Well,
is
do
not
it.
even close to
hey,
true.
Hey, do the math.
Yeah, exactly.
Jeez.
And
64 bits.
also clearly the only thing that made power was 64 bits versus that. I mean, honestly, what it came down to was Sega did just such a good job marketing that everybody believed that, oh, the bits is what matters.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that doesn't actually matter at all.
No.
Oh, we can add two numbers that are much larger together at the same time. Who cares? Games aren't going to use numbers that big, so whatever.
Yeah.
But like, people didn't know that. And so anyway, I got it because by the time that I found it, it was already on clearance. It was $40. And so everybody was saying Alien vs. Predator was great.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I had read online that the way to play it was to turn off the HUD, turn off the lights,
Oh.
and play with surround sound. And so if you've ever played it, there's no music.
Yeah.
And when you are stalked by the aliens or the predator, they do not make sound until the moment that they hit you. And so you are on this giant ship, and you are like walking around with your gun, and you're like, all right, there's nothing here. I've cleared out this. I've cleared out this. And all this time, there's an alien that's like running behind you, like, I'm gonna get him. And then all of a sudden, they go, ah! Shh! And the whole screen turns red, and I fell off the couch and was like, I'm done with this. And I have never beaten that game, nor have I really played it since, because I was like, nah, I don't need to fall off the couch because I'm so
Dang.
scared. And yeah, that was a straight fall off the couch as like a 16-year-old kid.
The Alien games, Alien vs. Predator, like the games as a whole, have done a really good job being scary.
Yeah.
Like Alien Isolation, phenomenal
I can't
scary
play
game.
that game anymore. Like the last time I tried playing it, I played for 2 hours and I made about like 10 minutes worth of progress.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I was dying. I was like hiding in lockers all the time.
The
I was just
hiding in
genuinely scared.
lockers, and then the alien coming by and just breathing, and you hear that, and you're just like, I'm gonna put the controller down. I want to stop.
Yeah.
Like it's terrifying. Yeah.
Did you guys ever see the cover for Diablo on PS1?
I don't
It just
think
has
so.
like Diablo on the cover. That
Oh,
that might be.
yes,
I didn't even
yes.
play the game, but the cover was scary enough for me as a kid that I
Yes.
just was like, nope,
Yep.
I don't want to
You
play
noped
the PlayStation
right out of
at
there.
all. Yep, that and Resident Evil 1. Oh, and 2. Those
Oh,
covers.
yeah.
I was also like, yeah,
That's
games
too
are
scary.
Yep, I'm
Yeah,
gonna
scary
stick with
games are not
Zelda.
something that I would go toward.
Yeah.
Just in general,
No,
I was
and
always like, I play
nowadays,
games to have fun.
especially, they're so realistic and
Yeah.
so gory.
Yeah.
It's too much. For,
Uh-huh.
Honestly, that's sound like a wuss, but I mean, it is so much.
Yeah,
Um,
and like, look, to me, I'm like, if I'm gonna play a game, I want to not be like afterwards going, oh my god. But I'm also like that with movies. There's
Yep.
not many, like Gremlins is about as close to a scary movie as I get.
Oh, okay.
And it's more ridiculous.
Yeah.
So, and that's a choice, you know. Like I'm not saying that I haven't seen scarier movies. It's just that if I'm gonna sit down and watch something, I'd rather smile at it and feel like,
Yes.
okay, that was fun. Than afterwards just be like, okay,
Yeah.
my heart's okay. I'm still alive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You don't have to like check your body
Yeah,
and make sure.
and
it's
like my
also
kid loves
here.
scary stuff, and great. There's a market for everybody.
Yep.
But yeah, Alien vs. Predator is kind of the top of the mountain of how scary I do
Yeah.
with games. Because after that, like Resident Evil, people are like, "This is great." I'm like, "Yeah, for you."
Yeah, for you. You're
I
good.
learned. Falling off the couch hurt.
Falling off the couch.
I jumped.
Oh, I
Thunk.
believe you.
Yeah.
I believe you. My first game that really scared me was like the first jump scare I can ever remember in a video game. And it's the original Splatterhouse on the TurboGrafx or arcade. But there's this one level, and you fight a leatherhead, a guy with his head cut off, and monsters and ghosts and all this stuff. But I think it's the fourth stage or Act 4. There's this one part where the music gets really like just do, very dainty and very silly, and you're walking, and there's no bad guys. There's just nothing in the level. You just keep walking. But you get to this one part where there's mirrors on the wall, and you're walking past it, you see your character, and they walk back and forth, and it's just mirroring each other. As you keep going, and you're like, okay, well, this is weird. You get to the fourth mirror, and the mirror shatters, and it's another version of you that grabs you and just throws you to the ground and starts like bambling on you and stuff. And it's like, it's made me literally jump. And for 40 years, almost 40 years, I've been playing this game, and I still jump at that same spot, and I know it's coming. I twitched probably 3 years ago playing that game, and I go, ah! And it got me again, and it just never will not get me. And that is the scare. That's the scare. Splatterhouse 1.
Okay, well, returning to what I just said, Gremlins. So we just talked about scary. Now we have to talk about funny. What's the game that you can think of that's the funniest one that you've played?
I can't pronounce it. Oh, it's
How do you spell it?
lots of crazy stuff. It's got Y's and stuff in it. It's a Japanese game for the PC Engine.
Okay.
It's a difficult game to pronounce. It's a comedy duo, or like a troupe that do a comedy show in Japan. And the whole game's just a platformer. It honestly reminds me of Bubsy. Like, it's got decent elements. Bubsy's a decent
Everything's
game.
about
not
the Jaguar version.
Is it
No,
bad?
the Super
Oh, it's
Nintendo.
terrible.
The Super Nintendo
No, the
Super
Jaguar
Nintendo.
version's bad.
Yeah,
Wow.
it was like Close Encounters of the Third Kind, I think.
Yes.
It's not it's not Bubsy 2. It's something else, and it's awful. Like,
It is
it's just
bad.
Wow, really?
And it's insanely
Sorry
hard.
to go back to the Jaguar.
It's
This happens when
insanely
I'm
hard.
around.
It's
yeah.
crazy.
It's
It's
like most
insanely
of his
hard.
blind jumps off of platforms that you just
Yeah.
hope that you're not going to die
And then
at.
there's falling damage,
Yeah,
right? So
yep.
you're just like,
Yeah.
What
flatten
could possibly go wrong?
Yeah.
I don't
it's
know,
rough.
Bubsy.
Bubsy 1 on
Sorry.
the Super and the Genesis
The
are
the
good
game with all the
games.
Ys. What is the game with all the Ys?
I can't. I'll have to think of it and post it at some point. But anyway, it plays like Bubsy. It's a nice platformer. It's got a lot of really high jumps, and you're kind of going up a lot of hills and going down a lot of hills. But it's a comedy troupe, so everything they do is like comedy sketches. And you just go through levels, and there would be this one thing you go up and I don't speak or read Japanese very well. But what they do is they go through and they'll play rock paper scissors, or they'll do like those silly the games in Japan that they do where they, like, if you put your hand down and you get hit or something and you make a sound, it goes like "Arr!" or whatever, and then you get beat up, and then you keep going back and forth. There's like tons of levels like that, and I just laughed the entire time I'm playing through. You're doing rock paper scissors, you're doing like pie eating contests and stuff like that, and dancing contests. They had like a rhythm dance section in this game from like 1993 on the PC Engine, and I'm like, I don't recall that until like Parappa the Rappa like 6 years later.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy, and it was ahead of its time. It's very funny, very silly. There'd be like you're doing this thing, and how good you dance is how good the girl that you get at the end, and there'll be this
Oh my
girl with
gosh.
like buck teeth and like
Oh my God.
glasses and tape in the
Because
middle
it was the
because you
90s.
did bad, or it would be like this beautiful model, and like just silly ridiculousness from start to finish. In the end, I don't remember exactly what happens, but yeah, hilarious game, really well put together, and it's just like, I don't think it could have worked in America, but
Yeah.
crazy, very funny.
Sounds like Feel the Magic for the DS.
Oh yeah,
You know, I'm gonna
and
Google-
That's
I'm gonna Google-
XYXX. So like that would
Oh, yeah.
like similar name.
Yeah.
connections, it sounds like, at least.
XXXY.
Oh yeah,
That's
yeah.
what it was, yeah.
Okay, what
Or
about yours?
Project Rub.
Funny
What about
games.
mine? Well,
in the
Or
UK.
Zian,
you
what
should
about
go
you,
next
Zian?
because I
Yeah?
asked the question. Unless you don't know yet.
I don't know if it's not that the game is like comedic. Have either of you heard of the game Screen Cheat? It's on
No.
Switch and PlayStation 4. It's a, like
Okay.
I have
a
not.
newer thing, but it takes the concept of like it's just a deathmatch like GoldenEye, Halo type game, but you actually have to screen peek and look at all of the other like players' screens because all the characters in the game are invisible.
Okay.
So you actually have to like look at the players and see where they are like proportionally on the map. And all of the weapons are like you get like one of them is like you're riding like one of the horse, like a horse on a stick, and you have a sword. So it's like the melee weapon, and there's like a buckshot cannon. And I think it always like catches me off guard when I get killed, when I'm like like hiding in an area and someone comes and catches me, or if I get them, like it makes me laugh a lot, even though the game isn't like cracking jokes, and it's just a silly kind of game.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll finish the
Yeah.
trifecta of
Yeah,
games that are
please.
really weird and that nobody else has heard of. A few years ago, we started doing a project for our show where we bought a bunch of old JAMA games to make into cabinets.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, uh-huh.
And so
That's
one
like
of them,
arcade
yeah, like
style
the actual,
boards, right?
yeah, thank you, the
Okay.
actual arcade style boards that you put into an arcade game and make into one. And like I was randomly finding some, and every so often I was like, nobody's heard of this game. What is this? And there's a game that I bought from a seller, and I bought 2 copies of it. It's called Cool Mini Games, and it is the stupidest game. It's like it's kind of like a WarioWare style game, but like from like 2000 2005 ish.
Oh my gosh!
And like it just like there is really weird game. I remember that there's games with like poop that shows up. There's like all these other weird things, and like it just randomly starts into them, and you're just like, what is this? And yeah, it's great. And it's got the dumbest name, and because it's got the dumbest name, it's impossible to Google.
Yeah.
And we have 2 copies of it. It's not a game that we yet put into something because I need more time in my life to do all of that. But
does it use
I want it
like
to.
buttons? Or
Yes.
like big buttons.
It's
or
like
something?
3 buttons. No, it's
Yeah.
not the big button one.
Okay.
That's what you're actually probably thinking of is a game called Bishy Bashy.
Yes.
Which,
Okay, so it's not that,
I'm
though.
getting that. I'm getting one of those.
Are you
copies
really?
Kind of soon.
Awesome.
Yeah. We buy a bunch of weird stuff because we also put games out at places, and
Sure.
so I just confirmed that I'm getting a Bishy Bashy
Awesome.
soon.
I
but
played that for the first time like 2 years ago.
yeah,
but
and
that's
that
crazy.
it's
This
kind of
isn't
like
it.
that. And no, this is a totally different style game.
Cool
That is
mini
just
games.
just called Cool Mini Games, and it is the most strange Japanese game that there ever could be. It's a game that if I can put it into a cabinet, if I put it out at like a location, literally it would make no money ever because everybody would just be like, I have no idea. If you take it to a show, everybody that's played it is just like, this is the most
I was
funny,
gonna say,
hilarious, awesome
Yeah,
thing.
it sounds like a type of thing where like you get a bunch of people like trying to pull their friends into like you
Yep.
have to check this out.
Yep, it would work way better as like a social game for the Switch or something like that,
Yeah.
but it is what it is. And so yeah, I hope that I can actually like take it out, but if you can find the ROM of it, I would never do emulation, and emulation is not something that I would ever support.
Not ever.
But if you ever find the ROM of it, I don't even know if they know who
You know,
owns it.
I'll probably just wait
It's
around
worth
until I
looking.
can buy a copy of Cool Mini Games on the latest online
Yeah.
store.
Well,
If
so
that's
here's
gonna happen,
here's
right?
what's funny too, because it's
Yeah, of
both so
course.
rare and because it's so unknown. I believe that I bought the boards for like $40 a piece, and that was part of the reason that I did it. It was like they're $40. How bad can they be? And I got them. Was like, this is phenomenal. Whereas there's a lot of other ones. You know, it's actually one other weird arcade game like that. So Konami did all the 4-player games in the 80s, right?
Mhm.
Like
Oh, yeah.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles
Yep.
and stuff like that.
Simpsons.
Okay. You ever heard of Escape Kids?
Escape Kids.
Escape Kids.
I have not.
Okay, Escape Kids is a Konami game that came out. There's actually 2 of them. The other one that I'll say that's another 4-player game that you may. This one's more common. Punk Shot.
I don't know.
Okay,
Punk Shot.
both of these are outstanding 4-player Konami games. We have Punk Shot that we use, and we have Escape Kids that we use. You can play them at our show. Actually, we bring
Amazing.
them out. So Escape Kids is Super Off-Road, right?
Oh yeah.
Escape Kids is super off-road, but it's with kids, and they run around, and you have to pound on a button to make them run, and there's a joystick, and then there's a button for jump, and so you can like jump over things, and like you run around and like you trip the other kids and stuff like that, and whoever
Oh,
wins
awesome.
at the end, everybody goes up on toilets, and then the winner flushes the toilet, and all the other ones go down the toilets, and it's like there's so much weirdness to it. I have no idea why Konami was like, we do Turtles and Simpsons and Escape Kids, and why is it called Escape Kids? I don't know. And then Punk Shot is like a 2-on-2 basketball style game where you've got 2 people, and like one of them is like the Mohawk guy, and one of them is like the other punk guy with like big earrings or whatever.
Sure, leather
And-
jacket or something,
Yep.
maybe your jean jacket.
Yep,
or whatever.
and like there's bombs, and you can pull down the other guy's pants, and like that. They're both amazing games, and both of them have great soundtracks. And Escape Kids is a really hard one to find, and Punk Shot is not.
What kind
but
of
those
a
are
game is Punk Shot?
great ones. It's basketball
Okay.
and fighting, kind of.
Like Arch Rivals a little bit, or
Kind of, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd actually, but it's 4-player, and like
Oh, it
Arch
is.
Rival in the arcade was only 2.
Okay.
Well, now that we're getting pretty close to the end here, I'm curious about one thing. What is something you are currently playing, if anything? Doesn't have
Okay,
to be new.
actually, I do have something that I've been playing. It's funny
Okay.
because my brother-in-law so often calls me the dealer that doesn't do the drug, because I'm like, the only time that I play games is when I'm fixing them because we have them out at
It's
a
hard
location or
sometimes.
whatever.
It is. It is. It is just to enjoy a game too. It's
Yeah.
sometimes hard.
Well, and I tend to play handhelds most of the time now,
Sure,
just
yeah,
because when I've got 5 minutes, I can pick up something. And lately, I just hadn't been playing anything other than my phone. We recently we're going to end up working with Mod Retro at our show.
Oh, cool.
They came out with the Chroma, and it's a like new Game Boy Color, and they were like, we'd like to send you one just to get your feedback on it. And I was like, okay. And I was kind of like, and I told them like, it'll be probably pretty good. I'm someone who generally likes like third-party stuff. Like I like all the HyperCin and the retro bits and stuff like that. And like I understand why they're not quite the same thing, but I'm also not like such a harsh critic that I know that that button press was 2 frames off or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, yeah, we'll see. It is the best piece of hardware that I feel like I have had in years. It's heavier, the screen is brighter, the screen is bigger, it's gorgeous. And so I have like rediscovered a lot of the Game Boy games that I have, and most of them are terrible because I was buying games that I was like, ooh, Jetsons, that looks cool for $2, and now I've played it for like 3 minutes and gone, oh yeah, that's why I don't remember this game at all. But like Tetris is obviously great. The game that I've been the most surprised at, that I actually mentioned to a couple people around here, Battletoads. On the Game Boy,
original,
Just
yes,
Battletoads,
yep,
really.
is NES Battletoads, and it's amazing. I can't believe that they shoved it all in that
There's
cartridge.
2. There's Battletoads, and then there's Battletoads in Ragnarok's world.
Yep.
That's the Battletoads,
Did
the
they put
NES
Double
one.
Dragon on Game Boy too? Battletoads and Double Dragon?
They did.
Yeah.
NES at
yeah.
least got it.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I think so. It's NES. I think it was Game Boy, and it
Genesis
was
and
Super
Super
Nintendo.
Nintendo.
I had it on Super Nintendo. I know.
Yep. Yeah, I love the Super Nintendo Battletoads Double Dragon. It's like a fixed version of the NES one because the NES one's pretty broken.
Yes.
Beautiful game, but very broken.
Very broken.
Which is similar to the first.
I don't know how I got that game, but that was one of the games that I had as a kid, the Super Nintendo version of it, and I loved it.
Yeah.
And anyway, other than that, I've gone through a ton of Game Boy games and played like 5 minutes of each of them. So if you want to ask me,
Nice.
is Little Mermaid any good? The answer is no. If you want to ask me, is Jetsons any good? No. If you want to ask me, God, what else was there? I bought a lot of like licensed games that I was like, oh yeah, this will be fun. And no, they are not. So many of them are shockingly bad. And then there's like Tetris, and the games that are good are all puzzle games.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my jam lately. I will also tell you that I am on officially since we've started this, yearly podcast.
Our yearly tradition.
I believe that the first time when you asked me this, I said that my goal was to play God of War Ragnarok.
Yes.
That is still my goal. I am at the exact same point as I was 2 years ago.
Perfect.
So that might be the
Awesome.
summer thing if I can.
I mean, I'm still not proud of never finishing or playing much of Metroid Prime, and that was a big goal for me a few years ago. Like I was like, I'm finally gonna do it, and then the remaster came out, and I was like, yep, all right, now's the time. I bought it, I opened it, I put it on my Switch. What have I done? Still not played it. What was the question again?
What are you
playing?
playing? Not just what are you procrastinating on.
I just started Final Fantasy VII Rebirth last night.
Nice.
On PS5. It was the reason I bought a PS5.
Yeah.
And
Is Rebirth the first part?
it's part 2.
And then, it is part 2.
Yep, it is.
Okay, because
Yep.
what was the first one? Remake?
Just remake. Yeah. Just
So it's remake, then Rebirth?
Yep. Rebirth.
That's the story continuation of
Yes.
Final Fantasy VII, the
Yep.
new...
Yep. So things pick
That's
off.
not good.
or
That's
pick
not
up.
great. Why is part 1, part 2? Let's be honest. Like, why make it confusing like that?
I think, like, not to get into spoilers, because I haven't played it, right? I just started it.
Okay.
I think things are gonna take like a crazy twist on like what happened in the original Final Fantasy VII.
Are you talking about like Scott Pilgrim and the Netflix series versus Scott
Kind of.
Pilgrim the book? Because that
Yeah.
made me so mad. All I wanted was an animated version of the book
I know,
series.
right?
And the first episode is until Scott dies. Whoops, spoiler alert. It's been out for 2 years. But the entire show is about Ramona this time.
Uh-huh.
It's pretty good, but it is not Scott
I
Pilgrim.
think there's weird stuff too with like that where like the dubbing it felt really off, and I'm not
It's
even like
weird.
very snooty about that kind of
Right.
thing either. But it felt like they like recorded all their narrations for that in like someone's bedroom or something.
Yes.
And
It was a
just
lot of the original
yeah.
cast, and I think they were thrown
Yeah.
together whenever they had time, and you could tell.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. That's hard. That's hard when you got like A-list actors that are in, that. But anyway,
But I think
Final Fantasy VII. You're playing that.
Yeah, and I'm really
Good.
excited to dive into it. But I just finished a game called Control, which is like made by the Max Payne Alan Wake team.
Oh,
I really
cool.
like that a lot. It felt kind of like Dead Space. You can like fly around at times. You get like a cool power that lets you just levitate. You can like telekinesis and throw stuff around the room, and your
Nice.
like gun transforms. It's very weird, and like it felt like that was a good game for me to like kind of shut my brain off.
Very cool.
And just play. Like I talked with my girlfriend on PlayStation, and I would just play the game and didn't have to focus on the story much. But now,
Yeah.
like I'm kind of nervous to like really start Rebirth because I looked on how long to beat, and they claim it's like an 80-hour game just for
That's-
the campaign. And I'm
For
like,
me,
God.
And that's not the entire Final Fantasy VII, correct?
Nope. It's just part 2, and that's not even including like the side quests, which are apparently good in this one.
Yeah.
The first part side quests were all just like fetch questy kind of things.
Yeah.
And they really went hard in this one. So like I want to commit the time, but yeah, like that's why I understand like
Oh yeah.
finding the time is just hard. And
I hate to
even
say
when you
this,
want to, right?
but one of my phone's things that it will do is that if I type into my phone how long, it will automatically say to beat, and it will usually fill in the last 5 games that I looked for right away. And so many of the games that I choose to play are, it's 3 hours long. I will try that.
Yes,
Why not?
yes.
And like it's fascinating because like when I was in the 90s, you were also there, but I don't know
was
about
there.
you, so I'm not
Yeah.
going to speak for you.
I was there.
In the 90s, if people were like, "Oh yeah, that game is only 3 hours long. It's not really worth it." Now I'm like, that's the exact
Please?
game I would like to play.
Yes.
Please stop giving me the 80-hour spectacle.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
It's crazy
Yeah.
how that twists around, because I even remember too, this is a bit of a newer example, but like Star Wars Force Unleashed 2, I was working at GameStop at the time when that came out, and there were a bunch of people that were like canceling their pre-orders, trading in copies really quick, because I think it was about a 5-6 hour game. And nowadays, right, like I'm totally in the same boat as well, like that sounds awesome. Sign me up.
Yeah.
Rebirth for Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 3 is a 15 hour game? Awesome. I love
Yeah.
that. Like,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's ridiculous. But
bring us home.
what are you playing, Josh?
So I just finished last week. I finished Read Only Memories 2064.
Oh, you did? Oh, you finished it.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I finished that on Steam. I've actually had that for like 9 years when it first came out. I was so excited about it. I did kickstart it, and the original release for the first 6 months was only available on the Ouya.
Oh.
Was it really?
Ooh,
The
yeah.
Ouya, yes.
You love that thing.
I do
At
love
least
my
I
Ouya.
like to think you do.
I do. It's pretty great.
You are the one.
I'm the one. I'm that guy.
Hey, I love the Gizmondo, so.
Hey, right? Yeah, I mean, Gizmondo's ahead of its time.
I have a complete collection of Gizmondo as of last week.
And how many games is in that collection?
Like 7.
Nice.
I know.
Nice. That's fresh though. Last week.
It's shockingly hard to find them. Yeah, I've been looking for one of them for ages. I'm interrupting you.
No, you're
I'm sorry.
fine. You're fine.
Okay.
We started setting this up on Tuesday, so I have not really touched a game other than what was on my EVERCON Open thing. But
Yeah.
a serious game that did come out last weekend that I spent a good 4 or 5 hours with playing with some friends. The beta for Fatal Fury City of Wolves is on PS5.
Oh, is it really?
And it is great. All rollback netcode, online fighting feels very crisp. Feels like you're playing next to the guy next to you, or not next to you, but in whatever country they're in. Right off the bat, it gives you options of which region you want to be in. You could play with Japanese players, you can play with Chinese players, you can play any. It like gives you a list of countries.
That's really cool.
So USA, empty, dead. You're sitting there waiting for matches forever. But you go to Japan, everywhere.
Really?
They managed to fit the Fatal Fury Mark of the Wolves Neo Geo game, that system, the battle, the way that the game felt, into a 3D game.
Wow.
It's pretty good. I was very surprised. And like, SNK is so good with the King of Fighters series, the Fatal Fury series, where these guys have rivalries and storylines that have still continued to go on. Rock Howard is one of the main characters from Fatal Fury. He is Geese Howard's son.
Yep.
He's been raised by Terry Bogard, and they still do these things. They'll do the walk-ups, and they have these moments and stuff. And there's like literally a fight where Rock walks in and he's kind of looking at the ground, and Terry's like, "What's wrong?" And he's like, "Nothing." And he's like, "You could tell me whatever's going on." He's like, "You're not my father." And it's just like, yes, I want to fight now. Like, yes, there's storyline here, and it's,
Yeah.
I'm very excited about this. There's like 8 characters available, and there's going to be like, I guess 15 or 16 at launch. So
Well, it's nice to hear like how that you're enjoying this too, because I never really played like much Fatal Fury or King of Fighters or anything
like
as a kid.
yeah.
But I was surprised to see that they really kind of revamped all the characters'
they
designs
do.
in this new one, right?
Yeah.
Do you enjoy them? Like, does
So-
it feel weird?
No, it feels good.
Yeah.
It's really good. This one feels like Mark of the Wolves. The thing about the Mark of the Wolves game, and it was on Neo Geo and Dreamcast, like that was it. At the time, it had this super fluid like animations. The characters looked gorgeous. It was all hand drawn. Like it was beautiful. But the game played so different that it had kind of created its own thing. And like Mark of the Wolves went on for a long time at EVO, still being in the tournaments. And then Street Fighter 3 was like along with it, with amazing animations and really technical moves. And those two games were like kind of the flagships for a while for SNK and Capcom for, when 2D fighters took a major backseat for most of the early 2000s. I think Capcom SNK 2 on the Dreamcast and Naomi boards was like it was like the last 2D fighter for ages until KOF stopped at 2002, and then it was like King of Fighters 13, 14 every couple of years. But like Man, it's really cool to see that engine. I'm geeking out over the engine, but it really plays and feels like Mark of the Wolves. I can get those same moves to kick off again.
That's
like,
awesome.
The original Fatal Fury was done by one or two of the same developers that made Street Fighter 2. They had a very unique idea. Yeah, the original Street Fighter 2 team, after Street Fighter 2 proper came out, were never together again. A small group went and created fighting games for SNK. Like literally, that's what they did. SNK's like money, 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 and then like Fatal Fury came out, Art of Fighting came out, King of Fighters, World Heroes. Like they were just
World
like
Heroes was them too.
Yeah.
Okay.
that
crazy.
was ADK, which is a subsidiary,
Yeah.
but still
Okay.
a
It was
branch
related.
of the family
Yeah.
Wow.
of Capcom developers, and like it's good. There's a lot of Fatal Fury craziness that goes on, but the Mark of the Wolves sub story in City of Wolves now is very good. A+ fighter. Like
Awesome.
It's fantastic. So
Now
sorry.
I feel like I've got homework. Why are
Yeah.
you sorry?
Sorry, that was
I'm
I went
genuinely
off
gonna
there,
have to
but-
like go
No,
like
that's
listen
good.
back
It's
to
the
this
beta's out
podcast
and it's
for
just
all
a
of our
free
homework.
download.
Yeah,
on
yeah. I mean,
PlayStation.
yeah.
Nice.
If I say if I was gonna say anything for homework, it's not play the Gizmondo. So
Sure.
yeah, because you won't find one.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. So
Not to play Zoop on Game Boy.
Yeah.
Something about white men.
Not playing that. If you want homework, here's my homework tip: Tempest 2000 for the Jaguar. Mwah.
Nice.
That's
It
my.
is
It's one of my
magnificent,
favorite
yes.
games ever. Yeah.
Okay.
So I've got I like to do big epic games on my Twitch streams. I just finished Read Only Memories. Yes, I almost said Ready Player One. Good grief. Read Only Memories. Up next, I've been thinking about doing Secret of Mana, Earthbound. Actually, probably Secret of Mana, Earthbound.
Do
Yeah.
Earthbound because
Earthbound?
I did Earthbound. We had done a Twitch channel for a while ourselves, and we've kind of
Yep.
dropped it just because everything got crazy. But
Yeah, no,
I
it's hard to
did
keep up.
Earthbound on it, and talking it through is part of what led me to those other things.
nice.
Should I play
Part of that
Mother?
was that.
That because on Switch is now Mother. You can play the
Right.
NES original, Earthbound, which is technically a sequel, and then Earthbound 3 on the GBA.
Okay,
Nice.
Should I do them like
So
a series, or should I just play Earthbound?
I'm a huge Earthbound fan.
okay.
Mother for the NES is like them trying to figure out what in the world an RPG is,
Okay.
and you cannot really get through it without finding strategy guides
Okay.
and figuring it
Just
out.
get lost
and
like in that weird cave thing.
Yep, and I loved it.
Okay.
And there's like parts where you have to like go to a certain tile and then think or something, and it's like, really, like why?
Wow.
Yeah, it feels to me it felt like a combination of Castlevania 2
Sure.
with like an RPG, and it was cute. And
Yeah.
I played it for a few hours. I did not beat it. I never need to go back to it.
I've never finished it either. I do think it's a cute novelty once you've if you ever just want to look back.
Earthbound,
say.
wonderful in many ways. One of the perfect games, I think.
Okay.
Perfect narrative, great. Mother 3,
Yes.
very good game, problematic in how it presents certain things
Oh.
in a way that if you haven't played it, you should be aware of all of that before you think about doing it on
Interesting.
stream. As a
Okay.
for instance, there are things in it that it's hard to say exactly what they were trying to do because it's a Japanese game.
Yeah.
But there's like potentially like sexual assault of a child in it and stuff
Oh,
like that.
no.
And like it's not played that way, and like some of it is like potentially like playing off of stereotypes about like different sexualities and stuff like that. And I played it, I beat it, I really enjoyed it. I didn't really think about a lot of that stuff. I've had some of that pointed out. I feel like if I played it again by myself, I wouldn't have that. But I also know that if I'm going to talk through it and I got to those points, they'd probably hit differently, especially because like I know people that might feel
Yeah.
impacted by that, and that's like I would not do that one because of it. If you go to a second one like that, the game that I would suggest actually is probably what is it now? It was so popular a few years ago. It's got a black cover. It's got the Floey the Flower.
Oh, Undertale.
Undertale.
Or
Yep.
Eastward is the other game that I feel like is
I've
kind
not
of
played Eastward yet, but it looks
following in
great.
that. I've played like 2 or 3 hours of it, and so far it is very nice.
Interesting.
It's not Earthbound.
It's got,
but
like, Zelda
nothing
combat
is
almost, doesn't it?
Yeah, a little of
Yeah.
that.
Or
Nothing
maybe
is
closer at least,
quite
but-
Earthbound, even the sequels.
Sure.
But yeah,
Have either of you heard of Everhood? They're coming out with a second one like in a few weeks here, but it's like Undertale, but with combat that feels like the bosses are like Guitar Hero songs.
What?
And you have to dodge. So you're on a highway. And you have to move left and right, and you're like dodging notes that are coming at you. And the music Everhood.
Everhood.
The music is insane. It looks like an Undertale type of game. It has that really weird, like kind of sassy humor.
Sure.
But yeah, I love that game so much. And I don't mean to derail as well.
It's all right. I think we've also been given the homework of we need to play it in our zone. So I'm going to start looking for that. I did also have someone give me recently.
The game section?
Yes, the one that like you
the
flip
little
down
red
the
thing.
thing.
Yep. And
that.
weirdly enough, Sega was one of the biggest producers of games on it. So you can get Panzer Dragoon.
What?
Yeah. Virtua Cop. I think Virtua
Is this
Fighter.
the thing where it was also like just one color?
It's
and
red.
just,
Yeah,
it's
red.
red and it's in front of your eyeball, and you really can't see anything, but you can see.
It's like the Virtual Boy in one eye with no 3D,
with
right?
no 3D. And it's the Tiger type game, so it's really
Okay.
one animation
yeah.
type, like.
Yeah.
Beep, beep.
Yeah, and Panzer Dragoon was one of the games, and they're like.
So silly.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we are just about out of time, but hey, we've got the Midwest Gaming Classic coming up. What are the dates for that again?
April 4th through the 6th, we're in Milwaukee, Wisconsin at the Baird Center.
Awesome.
And you can buy tickets at MidwestGamingClassic.com. If you are looking for your VIG ticket, which is the Do All the Things ticket, or
Do
your
All the
Friday night
Things.
ticket, which is our preview night, not everything's open, including the vendors. Both of those days will sell out, but like Friday preview night is vastly limited. So like the goal is you go in and you can play the games and then talk to the people that set them up. Whereas on Saturday and Sunday, our show gets so busy that it's very rare that you can figure out exactly
Yeah.
who's doing what and then
Yep.
have like a conversation with them.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's going to be it's going to be a good time. It's going to be the biggest one ever. We added another room to it, something like around 75,000 additional square feet because why not?
Yeah, well.
And we filled it. It's
Yeah.
going to be completely filled, and it's
Yeah.
going to be impressive.
wait.
There's
Yeah,
a
the
lot of
event
really
is
cool
already
stuff coming.
huge.
Yeah,
It is.
yeah, it's become a weird kind of cultural touchstone, and like it's become its own monster in many ways. I mean, you guys kind of know the history of it, but for anybody that doesn't, we started as a little show celebrating the Atari Jaguar. Thus why I can talk every Jaguar game for at least a little bit.
Yeah.
And we had other communities that first year that said, oh, we'd like to take part in this. Can we come and show what we like? And we said, yeah. And then every year, other communities come and we just say, yeah, come on out. And so this year, our big new thing is that we're adding speed cubing to it. So Rubik's Cubes, where they put their hands on the table and they have it under a box, and you lift up the box, and the person goes, and they have like 3 seconds to look at it, put it back down, put their hands back down, and then when they take their hands off, the time starts, and when they put their hands back down is when the time stops. We're going to have like 3 world record holders
Really?
at the
Oh,
tournament
I
on
can't
Sunday.
wait.
Yeah, it's going to be really cool. And they think that there could be more than 200 people participating in this tournament on Sunday.
Oh,
and
my God.
it's crazy because we've gone from not doing it to being what I believe is going to be one of the biggest speed cubing competitions in the nation in 1
That is
year.
so crazy.
And it just came up from, we had someone reach out to me and say,
You
hey,
can just leave that on.
hey, have you ever thought about doing speed cubing? And I was like, no, but do you want to? And they said, sure. And that's
Wow.
how like everything gets added to our show.
That's cool. It's really like welcoming the event.
Yes.
It sounds like has always been, but is still becoming.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's the goal. Is I told the story earlier today that I feel like when you walk up to any game, I always use the examples of Turtles, the arcade game, but it's really any game. If you play a game with someone else, by the
Yep.
time you're done with it, you've made a bond with that person. And I was a terribly shy, like 8-year-old going to arcades, and after a game, I could have a conversation with a 15-year-old who might be a different gender or
Yep.
ethnicity or age or whatever, and it wasn't weird. Whereas I would talk to nobody else when I was in 6th grade.
Yeah.
And I just felt like, why would they talk to me? But like, oh, you just played this, and I was this, and we were a team, and I want to high five you and say that was great playing with you. Thank you so much. And then we can go on our merry way. But we had a level of respect, and that's kind of what the whole show is founded on, and it continues to this day on.
Yeah. I love that.
EVERCON's just like that too, honestly, and that's one of the things that I think is awesome about it. It's about not that I'm trying to speak for you, but at least how I see it is that it's all about you guys again introducing people to each other in a social setting.
me. Speak for
Yeah. Well, is that? I mean, that's kind of
No.
the theory, right?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
The world's a better place when we interact and
Right.
do social things one on one.
I think it's a really big deal because it really like it welcomes everybody in, and people that wouldn't normally be in a group of 50, 60 people doing a certain thing, but when you're together and you're gaming, it's just so much easier. It's just it's the perfect icebreaker.
Yeah. Well, and on top of that, I mean, just in general, is we just talked. We spent, I don't know, an hour here talking about different games that we enjoy, and different experiences. And like, there is a worry that you can silo yourself and just be like, well, I had this experience, but like, I'll use Earthbound as the example. Earthbound is so much better when you can talk to people about it, and you can say, what did you think of it at this point? And holy crap, it's the part where the writing on the wall is the part where they talk about names and how important they are. And like, I got to that point and then was like calling people that I know loved Earthbound, being like, dude, oh my god, I didn't realize that. Now I've got kids and this happened. And like, if it wasn't for that social aspect of it, Earthbound is a single player game that is, I would argue, is a social game. And you need that social component because humans need that social component. It's important. So thanks for putting on EVERCON. Thanks for pimping my show here a little bit, or letting me.
Totally. Absolutely.
I like this. We should do this Fireside Chat again.
We should do this again. I think that'd be great.
We should do a second one. Yeah.
So maybe we'll
fourth. We've done a second one. The second one was last year.
Oh, of course, yeah.
So
fourth then? We'll do a fourth
Yeah,
next
we'll
year.
do a fourth.
Zion, now talking about like socials and just stuff on the general, like where can they find you online if they want to talk to you and chat about gaming or whatnot?
I have a very easy name I'm very easily findable online. If you just look up Xeon Grassl or Xeon Nintendo, I'm probably pretty easy to find, but Xeon Dude is what I go by.
Z-E-O-N.
Z-I-O-N.
Z-I-O-N.
Honestly, you'd think.
Well, that's why I'm glad that I did it.
Yep.
Yeah, thanks. But I do make videos for Nintendo Life all the time. Working on a fun one right now that'll probably go up on Monday.
Awesome.
I got to do a bunch of Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition coverage last week.
Very cool.
We just did a discussion about the latest Pokemon presentation that went
Very
up.
cool.
I don't know. I adapted. They just did a cool Yu-Gi-Oh collection for Switch where they brought like a bunch of Game Boy and Game Boy Advance games over to Switch. In
very cool.
Over the
That's
years.
really neat.
And there's some Japanese exclusive only ones that have finally been translated into English as well.
That's crazy. Now, did Konami release that?
Yep. Yeah.
What is going
Konami
on with
brought it
that?
out. Yeah, and the cool thing is they called it the Early Days Collection.
Oh, that's really
so
cool.
a lot of people are like theorizing that they're going to do a second one, and it'll have some other, because it's not just the GBA collection or whatever. It's it's got a fun name. So
Konami is the craziest rise or fall from grace. Like, it's just
for real.
It's just the strangest thing. But like they came out with a TurboGrafx Mini in 2022, and it's like the best thing. Like, I love having something like that. It was so cool for 6 months when people were like, oh, that's really neat.
Yeah.
But then they just don't do anything for 6 months. Like, they don't do anything for a year, and then they come out with that or the Turtles Cowabunga collection. It's just like, this is good. You're getting closer. Come on now. Let's do another thing.
Konami is like, you've seen a car get crash tested, right? Where they go really fast and then they go, and then they you see the car like, bam, and then it sits there for a while. It's like if you crash tested a car and it did that, and then everybody went, oh, it's probably broken, and then no one did anything with it for 6 months, and then they're like, let's try the car, and lo and behold, it works. And so they just drove it back to the front and then did it again.
Yes.
It's like, yep, let's go 0 to 100, and then let's just look at our pachinko games again, or whatever nonsense they're doing now that they care about more.
They did do another 2D Vampire Hunter, the Castlevania game, a part of that collection that came out last October. There is a new Castlevania game on it.
Is that in the DS collection, the Dominus collection or whatever?
Yes, it is. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, there's the Vampire Killer, the original arcade game. You can play the original, and you can play this amped up, crazy Way Forward sequel, like new version or whatever. And it is a love letter to classic Castlevania games. It's very, very easy, but it is phenomenal.
Have you seen the Castlevania Coin Pusher game?
No.
I'm just drop the mic.
Drop the mic.
Let's
go.
That's what we'll talk about next year.
Yeah, next year at the.
I have so many cards.
Thank you guys so much for hanging out with. Thank you, Zion, and of course Dan.
Yeah, of course.
For doing the Fireside Chat episode 3.
You got to lean back a little bit, or else you there.
Oh,
now.
Sorry.
I've been on screen and
I appreciate you guys so much. If you want to follow any socials that we've got going on here, I'm of course on Blue Sky at _Joshua Turbo. Don't forget the underscore, as it is the most important underscore in all of the internet. Thank you guys. We'll talk to you guys again. Bye.